There we go. How about that? Brendan? Always so many buttons to press. Morning, Roz. Brendan, thanks for the shout-out, mate. Graham, hopefully that's working now. Let me know, team. Yeah, we're back at it. I test a lot of technology in my little studio here, and I've got so many microphones. Sometimes I forget to turn on the right one, but we got it now. So, hey, good morning to everyone. Nev, Sean, Brendan, Rosalind, Pratesh, Graham, Luke, Sean, Nigel, Marcus, Melinda. Good to see you guys jumping on this morning. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee chat. Sharon. Morning, Sharon. Looking forward to catching up a bit later today. I think you and I are going to hang out, which will be a bit of fun. If you don't already know, Jason Witt's my name. So let us know if you're new. If you're dropping by, this is the first time, or maybe you're new to our mentoring program. Like Pratesh said, we had a bit of a nuts and bolts mentoring night the other night about tax, and that was just scratching the surface, Pratesh. There's so much that you can do when it comes to managing the costs that are associated to investing and minimising those and maximising your returns. So I'm glad you enjoyed that the other night, Pratesh. Good to see you here, Stephen. Yeah, mate, it's been a while. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. And Ashley, good morning. Thought we might hang out this morning and talk about a few things. But like I said, if you're new, let us know. Let us know if you're new, where you're from. Give us a shout out, whatever it might be. You think might got two mics going on there? Okay. Oh yeah, here we go. I do have two mics going on. Is that any better, team? How about that? Tell me if that works now. I've got a bit of stuff. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn that one on and turn that one off. There you go, Marcus. You're dead right, mate. I did have two mics going into my system, and it was mucking around. Anyway, well, thankfully, you guys aren't here for technology tips. Anyway, there you go. But hey, this morning I chucked a bit of a title. Well, there you go, Jeff. We'll see what goes on with those things. It's interesting out there. There's some rhetoric going on in the marketplace and in the newspapers, etc. There's an election going. Unless you live under a rock, you know that all the parties are vying to get re-elected and talking about certain things. But one thing that I don't see a lot of politicians talking about, and it's not. I don't understand. For me, maybe this is just a little bit of an aside this morning. Stick with me. I don't particularly support either side. I think at the end of the day, both of them give me the shits when it comes to the world of property investing. They change their mind all the time, and especially taxing me, which annoys the crap out of me. But anyway, let's not go down that path this morning. I don't hear a conversation about these two things that I think are vitally important for the next 5 years in Australia, and one of them is very underwhelming. The talk about this right now. You guys have heard me talk about the supply and demand issues we have in Australia. We have actually a lot of small builders and some large builders and developers going bust at the moment, and I think we will see a little bit more of that coming towards the end of the year. We've got our ear to the ground here at Positive, and thankfully, we've been working with some great people in that space. That none of them are getting out sort of unscarred when it comes to this building boom we've got going on. We've got a building demand boom, but a supply chain shortage and disaster going on. But that wasn't my main point of conversation this morning. There's an article going around that I read, and it was in the actual budget papers in the last few months. And tell me, what do you guys think this is? 180,000 in 2022-23, 213,000 in 23-24, and then settle around 235,000 in 2025. What do you guys think that is? Tell me, if we add those together, that looks to me well over 600,000, 600,000, and Brendan's right on it. Brendan nailed it. And you guys probably heard me talk about Oh, okay. I know, Sam. I'm having a bit of a shocker today, team. Having a bit of a shocker today. All right. Let's see. All right. Hopefully you can hear me now. We're back. Microphone issues today. Crikey, tell you. Anyway, there we go. All right. So we're back. And listen, team, we're talking about migration. More importantly, overseas migration. Over 600,000 people the government is targeting to bring into the country. And I think it's a fantastic process. Unfortunately, as Australians, we're not replicating enough. Our actual natural increase in population is declining. We have a problem, a challenge in our country that it is a massive piece of real estate with a very small amount of people. We have to maintain infrastructure all around this country with a very small taxpayer base, even though I was having a good whinge a moment ago about paying taxes. I don't like paying taxes I shouldn't be paying personally. But we need people in the population. We need the population of Australia to grow, not shrink, and they need to enter the workforce and be productive people in our society. The population has been declining naturally for a number of decades. We haven't been having enough kids, you lot, and they're expensive little buggers. I've got 3. I did my... which politician did the old, one for you, one for mum, one for dad, and one for the country? Who did that? Was that John Howard? Or was that Bob Hawke? Or was it Paul Keating? Which one of... Can anyone remember which politician that was? Chuck it in the chat for me. As you go. Our population needs to at least grow a little bit. And we haven't been having enough children. Team. So Costello, there you go. Costello, there. Thanks, BJ. Who knows that? So listen, team, here's what I'm telling you right now. We have a population explosion heading our way. We're going to have 600,000 people in a very short period of time, 2 to 3 years. That will reach a zenith in the sort of 230 to over 200,000 people per annum. The government needs to do it we've got skill shortages. We've got skill shortages. We've got all sorts of stuff, okay? What I wanted to talk about today is I want to talk about this migration, how it works or how it has worked in the past in Australia, and for all of us, how we might take advantage of these things in the coming years as property investors. So let's have a bit of a chat about that. This is interesting as well, team. Over the next 5 years, a very high proportion, probably the highest proportion for over 20 years, the highest proportion of our population, young population, turning 18. So we're now getting a large amount of young people. We've had a bit of I think it was a Gen X or something. One of the age groups, a little bit of a population boom. People did have a few kids, but they're going to enter the workforce as well, or enter the workforce and also the housing market. Right, so it's interesting. You got one new taxpayer in June. Good work, Pritesh. Well done, mate. We got to put a couple of taxpayers in there. Listen, when we all get old, and we're retired, we need some young people to make sure that they contribute to the infrastructure of the country. Okay, well, that's important for us all. So we've got 600,000 people on their way in the next 3 to 4 years and more. Probably, if you talk about it, over 5 years. Just add this up over 5 years. Imagine they do reach 200,000 a year for 5 years. Team, that's 1 million people. That's 1 million people over that period of time into the country. And we are in dire straits right now when it comes to construction and property. And, you get the banks and the newspapers carrying on like a friggin' bunch of pork chops. Interest rates are going to go up. Property prices are going to go down. What a bunch of bullshit. They're not talking about, these massive amount of supply and demand issues we've got. And they're not talking about, 600,000 plus people going to enter the country with money, by the way, because, whether you like it or not, Australia's immigration policy is if you got skills, you got money, you pass all the tests, you can come into the country. So they're going to come in with money, they're going to come in with skills, they're going to get jobs, they're going to buy houses. Well, they want to buy houses. And where are they bloody going to live? So, for me, for you, like, what's going to happen, team, in these next few years? I find it very difficult to believe that just because interest rates go up a few bucks, that property prices are going to go down. I think it's the stupidest concept on the planet right now when the way they're talking. Potentially the idea that owner-occupiers who borrowed more than they should or who can't afford it, blah, 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 blah. We've had this chat before. We've got more savings than we've ever had. We've got more equity than we've ever had. For the first time in a decade, our salaries are going up and our incomes are going up. So there's some positive things. I'm not going to harp on about that, but join me next week for, I'm going to do a 1 hour special actually at Mentoring called Fear and Facts, because every now and then, every few years, I've got to put this, I've got to put this stuff to bed. You're dead right, Pratesh. Common sense ain't that bloody common, unfortunately. So we've got 600,000 people coming. Let's look at how when they come into Australia, excuse me. Let's look how they come into Australia, where they disperse to, team. Brendan, I like that, mate. I like it a lot. You can't put brains into hardwood. Yeah, that's a good one. Now, listen, clearly over the last couple of years, we haven't had a lot of people enter the country. Come sort of early 2000s, the government said, listen, we need our population to grow. Natural increase is not cutting the mustard. Let's get quite aggressive in our immigration policy, right? And on average, if you look over that sort of decade or those 20 years, on average, it's, averaged out about 250,000 people, okay? And that is the number, ladies and gents, that's the number the government will bring the overseas immigration to, and that's the plan, right? 180, 200, 250,000, et cetera, et cetera. That's coming our way, okay? What happens, tell me right now, team, when we have a large amount of people enter the country, there are two places, by and large, that the majority of those people enter the country. And tell me what two cities are those, folks? Let me know in the chat. By and large, now this is kind of, let's call it 80% of overseas migration lands in these two cities or states as a priority when they enter the country. Tell me what they are. Boom, Pratesh is on it. Nice fast fingers this morning, Pratesh. Yep, Melbourne and Sydney, Luke. Melbourne and Sydney, Pratesh. It's Melbourne and Sydney, team, because, they're the big cities. They're the ones that people know from overseas. Yep, Sydney, Melbourne, Ash. That's exactly right. So Sydney is in all bloody sorts. Sydney is in all sorts. It's, its prices are sky high. Hey, morning, Chris. Prices are sky high, and, its supply chain is bloody buggered as well. So Sydney's going to have some challenges and some problems, and then Melbourne. I think Melbourne is a dark horse for me. I think Melbourne's severely undervalued when it comes to certain marketplaces and certain pockets, folks. And, me, Sam, and the other team have talked about that. COVID beat Melbourne up, unfortunately, for all you Melbourneites, the worst lockdown in the world, etc. For 2 years, there was an assault on Melbourne, and now it's unlocked. And, the house price in Melbourne did okay, but the rents did not. And townhouses and apartments struggled. But I can tell you right now, we're seeing some amazing results now that the COVID shackles are lifted down in Melbourne. So I still think it's undervalued. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about today. So Sydney and Melbourne is where the majority of the population comes in. And if we had a look at sort of the net overseas migration, you can see here, Sydney and Melbourne, Sydney and Melbourne, Sydney and Melbourne. It's where the majority land, okay? And you can see little old Queensland is getting a fair lick of the ice cream in comparison to the other states, okay? So, yeah, you're dead right, Luke. Yeah, you're dead right. We're not seeing Melbourne construction have problems like we're seeing in Queensland. Right, team, we've seen Melbourne construction prices go up maybe 5%, where Queensland, 20, 30%. Crazy times. But again, when you balance it up, team, Melbourne, like Brisbane prices are still 50% of Sydney prices. So it's still good value. The rental yield's still, 4.5%, 5%, still good value. But I still think Melbourne's got some legs in it. Anyway, but look at this. Here's what we're saying. All right, okay. If we want to benefit from directly some of this overseas pressure and boom, team, well, that's going to land in places like Sydney. It's going to land in places like Melbourne, and certainly Queensland was getting a bit of that as well, and Western Australia. Now, Western Australia, I think, is going to have a little resurgence because its mining is back at the forefront, but it's not going to be like the mining boom times back here, folks. And this was this mining boom driven thingy. Anyway, not going to talk about that. So if we want to take advantage of what this looks like when it comes to the next little bit, ladies and gents, we need to think about which state is going to get maybe the lion's share of this stuff. And you have a look at what happens interstate migration. So there's a few things. You go, all right, where are they going to land? Where is this population boom going to particularly affect us? Most likely Melbourne, Sydney, and Queensland. And then, who will be displaced? How is the displacement from those cities going to push into other places? Okay, and so often what happens, you can sort of see here, it's if you have a look at New South Wales, for a long time, New South Wales has had a drain on its population, SA and so too with WA, and they move to other places. So, it was very popular to move internally to Victoria or Queensland. And that has been kind of the go-to team for a long, long time. So for you, if we're all sitting here right now and go, how are we going to take advantage of this in the next little bit? It's if we have, 600,000 people enter the country via Melbourne and Sydney, majority of those people will actually stay in Melbourne, and some people will be displaced and want to leave. Now that might be original residents or people who arrive go, this is too expensive, I'm going to go somewhere else. And then, the other advantage is those populations will flee to southeast Queensland is very popular. So all the way from literally Tweed Heads, probably if you wanted to include it, all the way from Byron Bay to Noosa, to be honest, that kind of chunk of southeast Queensland and Melbourne. Any further afoot, people going to South Australia, WA, other places, is limited internally. So, the takeaway. What's the takeaway? Yeah, Tasmania's left out. Well, British Tasmania's population went backwards for over a decade. It's kind of like a retirement place now for Melbourne and other places. Anyway, Tasmania, you're all right, but I still don't understand how your property prices can go up crazily and your economy down there is rubbish. It's kind of like it's a holiday town. It's a big holiday town with no real jobs. Sadly, Tasmania is a beautiful, amazing place, but the jobs and the economy and stuff is just hardly non-existent, sadly. But anyway, that might change one day, Pritesh. You never know. So what's the point? What's the big takeaway here today, team? We've got a lot of people coming into the country. It's going to happen. It might go slow to begin with, but it will pick up. It will speed up. Where are they going to land? Sydney and Melbourne. Where can we take advantage of things? Because for the most part, most of us are priced out of Sydney. Melbourne, absolutely 100%. I think it's massively undervalued. And Brisbane, Southeast Queensland, huge opportunity. The population pressure and push will go into those three states as a majority. So it's not going to sort of, you're not going to be down in, South Australia and go, oh my Lord, the population's boomed down here. It's gone ballistic. Or Tassie or Western Australia per se. Okay. So that's what I wanted to have a bit of a chat about today. But I find it really bizarre. Team. I find it super bizarre that the government, there we go, the politicians aren't talking about this stuff. We've got a bloody disaster on our hands, and all they want to do is give away more free money to the friggin' first home buyers who can't even afford to buy the properties anyway. Anyway, don't get me started. I'll get on a rant. Yeah. Yeah, and certainly, Pritesh, the major employment precincts. Like, tell me right now, team, out of Sydney, if you wanted to sort of get a piece of New South Wales, if Sydney's priced out, what happens? Where's the affordable pieces? Where's a employment precinct north or south in Sydney that might be worth looking at? And that's Central Coast, Newcastle. That's Wollongong. Down that way. Those places you can still get well-priced real estate. And well prices anywhere from sort of $650 to $850. Yeah, Newcastle, boom, Luke, Nikhil. We love Newcastle. We've done a lot of stuff in Newcastle. We think it's an absolutely cracking opportunity if you want to get to the piece of the New South Wales story. The Hunter region, dead right, Brendan. We think it's got massive employment nodes up there and whatever. So there you go. Anyway, team, that's it. I think I've gone over time. Rabbiting on a little bit, but we've got a lot of population coming. How can we take advantage of it? It's mostly on the East Coast. And for all of us, think about it as a property investor. And to be honest, listen, team, you hear the media carrying on like a bunch of pork chops. Oh, interest rates going to go up, house prices going to go down. Bullshit. They're just full of it. And, the banks are just doing scaremongering as well. So, there's lots of factors that go into prices, go into rents, go into long-term value. Listen, there might be some short-term uncertainty, but stick with it, team. Eye on the prize. Because you guys know this. There's a few sayings around here. Buy well, never sell. This thing's a marathon, not a sprint. I think that's a good way to wind up today because I'm just ranting and rambling now. All right, guys, that's it. I'm done. You guys have a good day. Be awesome. Be well. Yeah. Exactly, Pritesh. Thanks, team. Bye-bye. Join me tomorrow. Come and we'll hang out tomorrow.